Do you think you can live a happy life if you're at war with yourself? Being overly critical, discouraging, putting yourself down, harming your mental health? Well, if any parts of the relationship that you have with yourself are things that you would never consider doing to your best friend, then you've made it to the right place. Because in today's Future Self-Coaching video, we're going to go through 6 ways to become your own best friend. Welcome, warriors! This is your personal development coach John here, the founder of nextlevelwarrior.com, and this channel is all about providing you with the knowledge and tools to help you build your warrior within to become your next level self, which is exactly why you're here. You know the power that it is to create the best relationship you can have with yourself, cultivating the friendship that actually matters the most, not only to live a greater quality of life, but to be able to show up in greater ways for the relationships and friendships that we have in life. Now, while most of these practices took me years to implement, and the others are fairly new, I'll tell you with great understanding from witnessing how I've changed and how I presently navigate through various challenges in my life, that if you push through, you will start making progress, and it will be absolutely life-changing. But on the flip side, if this doesn't get your attention, if you keep throwing it under the rug and ignoring how negatively you speak to yourself and treat yourself versus how you would actually treat a friend of yours, well, I don't want to put any pictures in your head, but you know it's not going to be the greatest life, both for you and the relationships in your life. So make sure to stick around until the end of the video. First things first. Grab a piece of paper, open up a Word document or a journal, and list out all the ways that you've been unkind to yourself that you would never even consider doing to someone else. Now, I'm not talking about going through your entire life, just look over the past few months. This could be instances of putting yourself down when you make mistakes and failures, discouraging yourself from trying things, negative self-talk. It could be ways that you unknowingly harm yourself, from the subtle to the serious, ignoring emotional pain, avoiding help. I can go on and on here, but I'm going to leave this in your hands. Now, you'll want to make sure that this list is as elaborate as possible. And while it may be very uncomfortable to bring these things up that you've been ignoring, this is part of the game of transformation. We need an outlet of expression. We need to make space for this awareness. Which brings me to the next point here. Giving yourself this space to offload and express honestly requires vulnerability. It requires trust. These are 2 invaluable aspects of closely knit friendships. Along with, of course, being a great listener, offering the space to be heard, understood, and acknowledged. And I know all of this may seem weird as but trust me on this. When you gift yourself this level of attention by bringing up your challenges to the surface, by refusing to ignore them, it's a big step in the right direction. Now, coming back to the weirdness, all of this must be thought of from the perspective as if you actually are 2 people. Yeah, the one who is sharing and the one who is listening. Which I'll suggest immediately that you need to use a journal for this. A safe container for these conversations where you can cultivate this relationship regularly by checking in with yourself, writing to yourself, as yourself, for yourself, expressing, questioning, reviewing, checking in. All of this really helps you to get to know yourself as you're growing, bringing a greater level of clarity into your life. And over time, you'll be able to actually see the progress you're making from these different angles when you look back at your journal. Consistently take time to measure the gain and not the gap in your life. This is something that I learned from one of my mentors, Dr. Benjamin Hardy, which has been completely life-changing across so many categories in my life. And there are a lot of ways to do this, but I want you to just start with this one. Grab your journal to write and reflect about your progress and achievements, both big and small, from the past month, 6 months, 1 year, or even 5 years. This is going to immediately lift your confidence. This is where you get into the gain mindset that boosts your self-esteem and self-worth because you are bringing to thought real and measurable achievements that you've made instead of the opposite, being in the gap mindset, which we're all guilty of way more than you think. Being in the gap is where you're constantly measuring against the non-existent. The gap between our present self and where we think we should be. The gap between where we are and the goals we have. Now, obviously they are something that you're working towards, but it makes 0 sense to drag yourself down by looking at how far away you are from them. This robs you of your motivation to move forward. Let's say that you have a goal to lose 20 pounds, and you're halfway there. You've already dropped 10 pounds in the past 2 months. Being in the gap is completely ignoring the progress and feeling down that you haven't actually lost the 20 pounds yet. Have any of you ever heard that voice before? You know, that inner critic that comes up even when you achieve a milestone, a major gain to celebrate in your life, yet that critic still has the nerve to downplay your progress, plummeting your confidence and reminding you that,
well, you still haven't made it. You should be here.
Now, if this is something that you've experienced, then let me know in the comments by typing yes, and definitely hitting the like button. Now, of course, this leads to number 4. Tell your inner critic to shut the up. Well, ideally, you'd tell them to go love themselves. But seriously, what I mean to say is to challenge it. Your inner critic is not something that's going to go away, but it's something that you can really develop into more of an inner coach to level up your life, instead of being a total asshole that brings your self-esteem down, robbing you of your motivation and willingness to progress in life. So challenge them. Ask questions and bring logic into the mix to alter those inner conversations. Eventually, you'll get really good at having this healthier internal dialogue that actually supports you. Believe me, you can get really good at this, and I've actually got a growing playlist of videos on this topic that you can check out in the description, but just do it at the end of this video. Now, on to number 5. Learning to accept compliments could be easy or extremely difficult for you, but this plays a huge role in building your self-worth, confidence, and altering beliefs that are holding you back from becoming a great friend to yourself. So I'm gonna give you the obvious message here that the more uncomfortable this is for you, the more that you need to be doing this. But fear not, because you're going in with a plan. The best way to navigate this is to prepare a set of planned responses to different types of compliments. You're basically planning a route to bypass the familiar critic that's going to want to jump in. Again, this is something that the more you practice it, the more progress you'll make. And by repeating this process, it will eventually become automatic. It will alter how you perceive yourself to be. It literally rewires the parts of your brain that used to believe you weren't worthy, that people are just being nice, or whatever other things you presently don't believe about yourself that are reflected in your inability to accept compliments. And this work goes very deep in the effect it has. You're altering beliefs about yourself that could have been formed decades ago. So needless to say, this is a very transformative practice. And just like any, the time that you put into this is worth every bit of it. Eventually, you'll likely notice that people are complimenting you far more than before. They're reflecting the changes that you've made within yourself. Start a new habit using the tiny habits method. So why do I mention this when this whole video is seemingly a bunch of habits to start? Well, there's a few reasons. This method is serious. It's been researched and developed extensively by Dr. BJ Fogg, who runs the Behavior Design Lab at Stanford. He's coached well over 40,000 people personally, including those who co-founded Instagram. And it's worth mentioning that much of Fogg's research was actually used in James Clear's very popular book, Atomic Habits. But I digress. I'll make sure to include a link in the description to the Tiny Habits book and the Tiny Habits free resource outlines that he has on his website. Now, the second part here is that you have even more opportunities now to challenge your inner critic that will try to all over the improvements you're trying to make in your life by shifting bad habits and starting new ones. You'll have more opportunities to build your inner coach, to build your encourager, to give yourself greater levels of compassion during these bumps on the road. And all of this will lead to a greater level of belief in what you're capable of, which translates to increased confidence. Even the simplicity of shutting off screens 30 minutes before bed, or waking up an hour earlier to have more free time to yourself in the morning for what's important to you. These are all underrated but powerful ways to develop the most important relationship you'll ever have in life, the friendship you're creating with yourself. This is a gift that no one can ever take away from you, a friend that will always be there to count on when you're going through the heartaches, when you're going through the challenges of life, and your physical friends just can't be present. Is this going to be easy? Probably not. Will it be transformative? Yeah, it will. And if you agree with this, then type 100% in the comments to let me know. Now, I know from first-hand experience that this is going to be a bumpy road, and one that your negative self-talk is definitely going to make some grand appearances to stand its ground. I can almost guarantee it. So for this reason, make sure to check out the next video here to really help you out with that. It's time to become your best friend in life. It's time to take new steps towards becoming your next level self. So until the next one, warriors, never stop growing. which has been absolutely life-changing in so many categories. What was that? Okay, I guess I gotta do that again.